This short movie is meant to demonstrate how our proposed app Amerigo would operate in practice. As our users walk through the city with their mobile devices, or students and scholars use the website, they would encounter this early modern map of Groningen, whose layout still corresponds neatly to the modern city. Entering the city on board ship from the south, one would immediately have two options: to make a left onto a carpentry wharf, or to make a right, snaking through the city, going to a place where many ships loaden with valuables from Africa and America would go. Here listed as number 80, its important companion property, number 27, was just around the corner. What are they? We encourage our users to walk over. And even the map will already tell you this was the West Indian House and the West Indian Storage Facility, the buildings of the Groningen Chamber of the West India Company. These were prominent buildings, listed on many maps and always pointed out. The chamber of the company, which was seated in the house, had actually been allotted a property taken from the abbots of the big convent of Aduard. So what did it really look like back then? When our users stand in the street and hold up their devices, they will see this 18th century image overlaid on the modern cityscape, which is still very recognizable. The big post office behind it stands on part of the property that also belonged to the West India Company. The West India Company marked its properties by affixing its seal above its doors. The man in the right-hand corner is marking the property in another way. And that seal is everywhere in early modern Groningen. It also appears on that ship's timber wharf. Its main client was, of course, the company. Here's what that timber wharf looked like, a view from it, back then, and here's what it looks like today. Still a peaceful early modern cityscape. We've also found the seal on this commemorative coin from the collection of the Groningen Museum with which we're working. This coin was minted to celebrate a particularly productive year for the Groningen Chamber, and it was so productive because of one special location: Elmina. Elmina, as many of you may know, was a slave fort on the coast of what was then called Guyana and is now known as Ghana. You can see it here on the left, marked Delmina. The Dutch occupied it and built both a castle and a fort, which we found on all these images, none of which are under copyright, and therefore all of them would be included in our app. Notice the sluices with which slaves would be transported to the ships. Elmina is now a popular tourist attraction, particularly for African Americans. President Obama visited it with his family. This is a painting of the Dutch governor of Elmina, Dirk Vilre, and it's painted by Pieter de Wit, we think in 1669. One sees an opulent chamber with wall coverings, a slave holding up a mirror, and a globe. One also sees a curious hulking figure in the right background. This is believed to be Johann Godschalk van Fockenbrock, a prolific author whose literary musings, particularly on Africa, were frequently reprinted during the Dutch Golden Age. So, what exactly did he write about his sojourns in Elmina? On the left-hand side, he appears initially pleased, writing that de ganse strand van duizenden van zwarten, welkers verf, naaktheid, vreemde posturen, geschreeuw en gejuich met ongehoorde en barbarische tonen mij zo wonderbaarlijk opgetogen maakte, dat ik als betoverd en gans buiten mijzelf verder liep. 3 pages later, the enchantment has worn off, and he writes instead about een zwerm van halfnaakte en koolvervige schimmen, die u den gansen dag de oren warm maken met een eeuwig getoet van loeiende horens, daar zij haar artem musicam met het abominabelste geschal des werelds op exerceren. What we believe is different about our app is that it presents you not just with old pictures, but instead with a story, with the stories of people, of products, and of ideas. We present poems, maps, and paintings encouraging contact but also analysis of art. This way of encountering and interacting is a fundamentally new way of presenting cultural heritage.